Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the statement between North Korea's Kim Jong-un and President Trump, I've got it right here, did include verification of denuclearization. Okay, I want to read the exchange between the secretary and reporters so you can hear exactly what he's saying for yourself, because it's important. So the first question, Mr. Secretary, I wanted to ask you about verifiable and irreversible. You said, the day before you said, it's our only objective. It's clear we want that. It's not in the statement. Why is it not in the statement? And the president said, the reporter continues, Secretary Pompeo then interjects, it is in the statement. It's in the statement. You're just wrong about that. Question, how is it in the statement? And the exchange goes back and forth, concluding with the secretary saying, you're just, because complete encompasses verifiable and irreversible. It's just, I suppose you could argue semantics, but let me assure you, it's in that document. He goes on to say, I find the question insulting and ridiculous and frankly ludicrous. I just have to be honest with you. It's a game, and one ought not play games with serious matters like this. Of course, we all agree with that. So let's just be clear here on the facts. This is the statement. The word verification is not in it. It simply is not there. That's a fact. You can look at it, you can zoom in, you can see it, you can check it yourself online. It is not there. And when you are talking about getting a country to give up nuclear weapons, a country that has promised to do so before and has broken that promise repeatedly, it is not a matter of semantics. And does one general word actually include something that is extremely specific? Jim Acosta is out front. He was the television pool reporter for the Trump-Kim meeting. And Jim, Pompeo is insulted. He says he's insulted. It's ludicrous to be asked why verification is not part of this signed agreement. You witnessed the summit firsthand. What do you make of what Pompeo said?
Well, Aaron, I think the Secretary of State is sensitive about this because they signed on to an agreement that essentially means they're going to make it up as they go along, that this is a work in progress. This is the beginning and not the end. And we got a sense of that yesterday or a couple of days ago, whatever day it was earlier this week when the president had that press conference and when he signed that agreement with Kim Jong-un. They obviously understand inside the White House that they have a big risk that they're taking here. The president is putting his credibility on the line, and that's why he said he may come back in 6 months and say this didn't work out. But I think Secretary Pompeo himself admitted that this is going to take 2 to 2.5 years to fully denuclearize North Korea. So this is a work in progress.
The Secretary of State says it's insulting, ludicrous, and ridiculous that anybody would ask about verification being in the statement because it's there, but it's not there.
It's not there, and the Secretary of State's words really just show the state of mind, how defensive he's become. Pompeo is usually very open, pretty charismatic.
Yeah, and this pretty time, affable, frankly.
And affable, yeah. And he's won applause for the way he's dealt with not only foreign leaders, but also everybody else. And this is just so striking. This phrase is CVID. The C is complete, and he says it's complete. The V is verifiable, but C is not V, and he should know that.
Right. I mean, it's a pretty basic thing, Mark, and yet defensive at the least would be the word. I mean, he's saying it's insulting that anyone would even ask why the word isn't there.
Yeah, I don't understand it either, Aaron. I mean, this is the kind of rigor and discipline that goes into these kinds of statements, and it also should be transparent to let people know what actually happened, and to have the disconnect between what the Secretary of State said versus what is actually in the document and also what the president's saying is somewhat disconcerting.
It is disconcerting, and I want to play something else that just happened and get your reaction to it, both of you. The president just spoke to Bret Baier on Fox News, literally just played, and I just want to play the clip here we have about what he said on North Korea. Here it is.
You call people sometimes killers. He is a killer. I mean, he's clearly executing people.
He's a tough guy. Hey, when you take over a country, tough country, with tough people, and you take it over from your father, I don't care who you are, what you are, how much of an advantage you have. If you can do that at 27 years old, that's 1 in 10,000 that could do that. So he's a very smart guy. He's a great negotiator. But I think we understand each other.
But he's still done some really bad things.
Yeah, but so have a lot of other people done some really bad things. I mean, I could go through a lot of nations where a lot of bad things were done.
All right, just to be clear here, the UN says you have 120,000 North Koreans in political prisons, Gordon, in 2014, starvation, rape, torture. Kim himself has personally ordered the execution of 340 people, including his own half-brother by poisoning in the Malaysia airport. We can go on and on. Anti-aircraft machine guns used to kill people. The UN actually, and I'll just read the exact quote here, when they talked about North Korea, this issue of other bad operators, the quote was, North Korean human rights violations do not have any parallel in the contemporary world. And yet Trump is saying, well, a lot of other people have done bad things too, and he's a good guy. He loves his people.
Yeah, well, that he loves his people is just incomprehensible.
Which is, of course, what he said at the press conference.
At the press conference Tuesday. And this is, again, a very difficult thing for people to accept what Trump has said. And the other thing that is so perplexing to me is that during the State of the Union message, Trump emphasized North Korean human rights. He brought the escapee who had been run over by the train. You know, he had done more about North Korean human rights than any of his predecessors, and yet he says something like that to Bret Baier. That just, to me, it doesn't compute, and I don't understand it. And the United States should be standing for human rights all the time, and we should not be giving excuses to people like Kim or anybody else.
Right. I mean, General, it is pretty stunning, right? And the president said he loves his people. He loves his people at the press conference. We all remember Otto Warmbier, right, who came back essentially brain dead. President Trump, making big comments about that at the time. But now there's other bad guys out there. I mean, General, the president also described the military exercises between South Korea and the United States that have been going on for years as provocations and war games that are going to end and save a lot of money. Now, just to be clear, war games and provocations are not words that the United States or its allies uses to describe those. The word is exercises. Those are the words Kim Jong-un uses to describe them. What do you make of that?
Well, you can't, by definition, call something that's a defensive exercise, which is preparing for any kind of attack by North Korea into South Korea, which is it describes the various war plans that we have on the books. It's a defensive deterrent. That's not provocation. If anyone has been provocative, it has in fact been Kim Jong-un, since he has been in power on multiple occasions, as well as his father and as well as his grandfather. They have done multiple things that have provoked South Korea, killing people, killing Americans, killing South Koreans, invading their territory, downing ships, downing airplanes. So all of these things just seem strange, but it's also a word that has been used by other countries, provocative. Russia, China, and North Korea have all used that term in suggesting that we should stop defensive deterrent exercises in South Korea, which we always tell them we're going to do. There are always notifications long in advance.
Yes.
We state exactly what the exercise objectives are.